Hi everyone, just kind of a video to show you that what I'm doing this year. I showed you one of the scarves I was making for myself this year, and this is how I do it. Or at least I'm going to show you how to cast on a couple rows and then how to cast off. I'm going to show you kind of two different versions of that, so that way you kind of get an idea of what I'm doing, since I'm making a lot of handmade gifts this year, and it's an idea for everyone else as well. So let's get started. You kind of just start off with a slip knot right here. I always end up with a tail longer than I always think I need. Just put on this peg right here. And tighten that knot. Alright. Now I always go 8 rows back. 2, 3, 4. So that's to here. This is a thing of 12, or you can count 4 from the other side and do that way. So, and you kind of make a figure 8 with it almost. Whoop. Alright, that's 8, and you push down, okay? And you kind of go back the other way, also making a figure 8. Right. You kind of got to bring it around the other side and do it like that. Sorry. And don't overthink it. And tension is a big thing here, because if you don't keep the tension on, it will zip all the way back and you have to start all over again. And if you received a scarf from me, this is how I did it. Right, and then you take this little tool right here, and there's these little grooves right here. You gotta take the bottom one, and you gotta put it on top. Boop, just like that. And it's always a good idea to lock these two first, so that way you can keep it in place. And that way, if you need to let go, you can go ahead and let go, and it won't undo all of them. And then you just keep doing that. And keep in mind the direction in which you went. A good way to do that is to notice that this tail here will always be going in that direction on this side. And you'll see when we go back, it'll be in a different direction. But I always keep it on the inside of these two, or on the inside of the pegs, rather than being on the outside of the pegs at the end, at either end. I hope that makes sense. It'll make sense when you see the other side. So as you can see, you're just taking it and moving it up. I got these. These are a kit. I think you can buy them individually, but they come in a variety of sizes. They come from, this is the smallest one that I know of for this style. There are round ones for making hats, but there's one that's very long that you can use to make afghans and stuff if you want to do that. Now at this point, usually I unhook this guy, and I kind of just undo the tail and just kind of put him in the middle, so that way he's hidden. All right. Then you're going to take this guy and do the same thing going back And see how I'm leaving with this one in the middle. Now keep that in mind for when you go back and forth, that is going this way on this side. This way on this side. He's going up and around. And this way, he's going up and around this way. Okay? Now, let me lock this, and I'll show you what I mean. Part of the reason I want you make sure that it's going that way is that if it's on the other side or you change the shift on it, it kind of makes a pattern. If you see on this one, it makes rows like this, and on the other side, it makes rows like that. And if you do that, it'll change the structure of this. Like, it'll switch, and you'll be able to tell when you do it, because like there will just be one line where all of a sudden it's different. Like, I believe this one does it as well. See? Sorry. I think right here is one of the lines that I switch it on by accident, where they accidentally switch paths. It's something that, this one's a little busier, so it's a little harder to see, but you can see that there's two different ways it goes, like the weave goes. So that's part of the reason to make sure, if you don't mind them knowing that it's definitely homemade, or they don't mind errors, then it's not and especially if you're just beginning, it's definitely a, sign of love, I think. Now, that being said, there's another method to this, in which you can do two over it. Now, I'm going to show you how to cast off on a single one of these with this guy. Now, you can technically use this guy, but I find it difficult to work with, so I have a crochet hook that I'm going to use. I've used this guy in the past, and it's just, this guy's just, for me, it's too slippery, too cumbersome to work with, versus a crochet hook, which is easier. If you work with a sewing needle, or not sewing needles, knitting needles, I suppose that would work too. I personally don't know how to use sewing needles, but so today we're going to be using a crochet hook. Now, to get this guy off, we're going to take one side and put it on the other. Now, keep in mind, this is just the way I'm showing you, because this is the way I know how to do it. And this is the way that I was kind of taught to do it. Other people will have different ways and know how to do it differently. But you're going to take one side, put it on the other, so that way you can get them to come together. And as you can see, particular yarns are more difficult to work with than others. I prefer these kinds, but like this one, you can see it kind of splits. So just be aware of that if you're new to working with yarn, that there's some yarns that are more difficult to work with than others. It's also a matter of preference as to what you like to work with, so go. And then what we're going to do is kind of the same thing I was showing you before, is just upping and overing them right here. There. Alright. Now this is where things get interesting. Because you take the first one, right, and you put it on the crochet hook, wrap that around. And basically just like crocheting, you're just taking the stitch and putting it there and looping around. And remember to add the extra strand so that way it doesn't get too tight. I'm not the best at making ends here. Half the time they don't come out square. I'll have one end that's very squared, as you saw earlier, and another end that is... Ooh, see, I made a mistake. Right there. I was talking and I didn't pay attention. Alright, right there. Oop. That one. I'll have one that's squared and one that I'll miscount on, and it'll become rounded. So, you know, it's... Oop, nope. Miscounted again. See? It even happens to the best of us that you make sure you just keep alternating between the two, so that way you have an idea of what you're doing. And so, see, sometimes you struggle with the yarn depending on what kind of yarn it has. If it's a looser yarn, it's a little more difficult, like this one is. Oop, it came off the thing. Sometimes you'll get this where it will come off the thing before you're actually ready. Just make sure you know that this is also a peg and that's a peg, and keep your eye on the prize, kind of thing. See how they're off? Yeah, if you tug too hard, they will come off. Oop. Right, and then we got that. And then pull it through. There you go. And that one actually came out quite good. And then you can pull it right through that way. I tend to make a little knot on mine, just to make sure it doesn't pull through, because if the whole thing unravels... It's a little far up. One sec, let me get... Okay. So, clip the end, and this one's done. Right. There's the end. Right. Now, with thinner yarns, with these guys, with yarns like this, this is a full wool yarn, and so it's a little bit thinner than what I've showed you before, like this guy, like this yarn. It's a little thinner. So with these yarns, I tend to like to double them over. So I'll show you that real quick. Go. Like before. Now this is wool roving. This is one of those yarns that I would say if you're not experienced, that you might have a little bit of an issue working with. Like, personally, I'm not really all that experienced, so it's not that it's super hard to work with. I mean, it builds quickly, but it's one of those things where it can be slippery, or you could poke a hole through it. No. And just like before, we're crisscrossing, rotating. Now, I don't want to put you off of wool roving, but just be aware of it when you're making it at the very end. Oop, that's too many. All right. 1, 2. And the reason I do 8 is because most people, the thickness is good for them. The full 12 is quite thick. The scarf I was showing you earlier is an 8. Now if they like to double their scarves, then yeah. Or they like to like fold them in half. Yeah. I would say make it a 12. See. But yeah, so usually most people tend to like the 8. It's not too bulky of a scarf then, but it covers your neck very well. Alright, like I said, there's the 2. Here's 2. See 2 layers. Oops, sorry. See 2 layers right here. And I just push them down. And then we're going to go back this way. And we're just figure eighting it. Alright, and see how this side is going back? Pretty much with this version, you're only going to need to worry about this going back, because once you go down and you come back. I'll show you in a minute, but this is like really the only direction you're going to need to do if you're doing a grand total of 3 of these. See how there's 3 right here? Boop, boop, boop. Now we're going to take these 2 and put it over this one, okay? And again, we're going to do that on these 2 first, so that way you don't have to worry if you have to let go or if you have something real quick that you need to take care of. Oop. And see, tension is, like with many, like knitting, crochet is a thing that you need to be aware of. Right? Now, I tend to like to do one side over another, but so I'm getting used to this format of doing things. So sorry if my hands ever disappear. And see, when I was doing it before, you noticed how I was struggling right here? The tension loosens up once you kind of get it over that first hump. Right? There we go. And for this one, I'm just going to, because it gets a little complicated, you push them all down. Okay? Right. And you kind of do the same thing, just going back. And see how it's on the inside? Push them all down. See how it's on the up? See it's up, and you push them all down. And we're going to go back that way again. Now, this one's 100% wool roving, so it's a little more natural than what other places are, or other things are. You can get roving in a lot of them, and see how it's back that way. Alright, and that's pretty much it on this one. Now, when you're doing the ending on this one, you kind of have to make sure that you're doing 2 to 1. Here, I'll show you. On the, with the yarn. you're going to do the same thing for this one to cast off. It's the same thing, except you're putting one side to the other and then pulling them up, except with this one, it's a 2-to-1, okay? Kind of show you right here. Or it's 1/2, sorry. Like here's your 3, okay? You're going to take, it's going to look like this, and then you're going to take the 1 and you're going to put it over these 2, okay? Oop, yep. And then it's always going to be the bottom one over the next 2, okay? See? Oop, sorry. Start over again. Sorry, still getting used to the new format. Or a format. Okay. There we go. Right. So 1, 2. It's a little bit different than what it would look like, but you see it, you take this 1 at the very bottom right here, and you put it over the 2. And you do the same thing. You take the bottom one right here, and then you put it over the 2. Now, when you're starting out, it would be probably better to work with more of a yarn like this, where it's a little more wove together, so that way you're not dealing with the this right here. See how it kind of goes together? So I'd say go with a yarn like this, where it's a little more bound together, rather than something that's fuzzy. So that's pretty much what I have to show you as far as minus doing a whole scarf. So, you know, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you're all doing well, and that this gave you some ideas for the holidays that are, or birthdays, or like if you want to make somebody a blanket, you can make one of, and you have one of these, you can make a blanket for them that's a little bit different. Now with the blanket, I don't know how I'm doing a blanket. I'm just wrapping it around like in a circle and then putting it over itself and just doing one line around. I don't know if it's going to work. I'll give you an update on that. But this is how I do scarves. So this is what I'm going to show you. Hope you're all doing well. Hope that, you know, you get creative this year. And have a good one. Bye.